Welcome to Inside Asia. This evening, we are going to have a special interview with Kun Thirachai Puwanat Naranuban, Secretary General of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Thailand. Welcome to our program, Kun Thirachai.
Sawasdee krab.
The Singapore Stock Exchange announced an ambitious merger plan with the Australian Stock Exchange. The deal is worth something like $8 billion. How do you see this trend? Is it good or bad for the capital market?
Singapore is certainly very advanced in their thinking. Let me tell you that among ASEAN itself, even before thinking about linking up, in terms of ownership, they have also thought about linking up in terms of electronic access that will be available to investors and to intermediaries. What they are doing is that they are going to have a single point of entry, whereby anyone can come in and then access to the individual ASEAN markets just by one click, right? And this linkage will be joined by Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore by next year, with the Philippines coming on the year after. But that is not an ownership play as such. It is just an electronic facilitation. In terms of ownership play, this is more sensitive, and in fact, this is a little bit more difficult because you can see even in Australia, which is quite an advanced country, there are now debates still going on, and the process has to go through the parliament and everything in order to allow this to happen. But in the long run, you are seeing now the exchanges, the stock markets in the world linking up almost into two big groups, two networks. One led by New York Stock Exchange and the other one by Euronext. In a way, if you are part of a group of exchanges with the same practices, you are going to have access to the same group of customers, and that may allow the business to be more competitive and to at least to defend your turf more easily.
But we've been discussing about the regional capital market integrations within ASEAN. But does this deal represent Australia's backdoor entry into the ASEAN?
Well, if it succeeds, it might be, but it does not prevent any attempt within ASEAN to integrate in terms of ownership. I even dream that one day, there could be, say, a holding company, that owns all the exchanges in ASEAN. Of course, each exchange will hold shares in that holding company, more or less according to the business, the level of business.
So you wouldn't be surprised if they would merge, with one of the regional exchanges?
I would encourage it. If it is the way, for the Stock Exchange of Thailand to hold on to the business niches. But this is why we are pushing for the law to be amended, to change the legal status of the exchange, from an entity set up by the law into just an ordinary company. And this is why this law is now in the process of going through the parliament.
But that's the development from the exchange side, which facilitates transactions in the secondary market. But how about the brokers? Should the brokers also merge or go regional? Do you think that the bigger, the better?
Frankly, the more that the authorities and the policymakers push for the markets to become more and more integrated, and the more that they can be accessed easily by electronic means, this is going to be game-changing. This is going to allow the smaller brokers, if he's savvy in tapping international business, to leapfrog and change his competitive position quite easily. So this is, the next few years is going to be an exciting period in terms of business competitiveness, business opportunities, and I will encourage all the Thai brokers to think and plan ahead as early as possible.
Do you think that they have got this message that they should adjust or die?
I'm trying to pass this message every time I have the opportunity to meet with them, and we meet with the Association of Securities Companies every 3 months. And, I encourage them to try to communicate that this is a way of the future. They cannot resist the change.
Asia now is driving growth, and within this context, there will be needs, for infrastructure development, and we have to make sure that the money is there to finance all the big infrastructure projects to meet the growth in the coming years. How do you see the role of the capital market, or more in particular the bond market? Asia countries have been mostly export surplus country, and we've been accumulated savings and channel our savings to subscription of US treasuries or OECD treasuries. Do you think that it's time that most of the money should stay here in Asia in order to help develop the capital market and to help finance the needs of the project development here in this region?
Well, we have to start with the premises that infrastructure is going to be necessary for future growth of ASEAN, and we need huge amount of investment. And here, when the leaders in ASEAN talk about the next phase, they talk about ASEAN connectivity, whether by land, whether by air, whether by electronics. This will require a lot more infrastructure support, both hardware, software, as well as legal. But here there are two things to talk about. First, we must allow these investment to be participated in by the private investors. So I made an appeal, to the ministers. They should allow the private sectors, the private investors to come in and invest together with them right from the beginning. And I'm hoping that a lot of these, projects, the financing, the packaging, the bundling, the structuring of these can be done in our markets, so that the investors can be invited to come in early as possible. And this is why in Thailand we have also launched the mutual fund concentrate on infrastructure investment available to retail investors. But there is another side of the coin here, and that's the reserve. Here we are looking at the reserves of the various countries in ASEAN and also in Asian countries building up to huge amount. And at one point in time, now they are in the hands of the central banks. So the central banks have to be conservative in the way that they invest. So they tend to buy only US government bonds, which yield very, very low returns. But I can see that part of that can be allocated for investment in infrastructure, within the region itself.
We can do that step by step. For example, at the moment, the Bank of Thailand has international reserves in the tune of 170 billion or something US dollars, which is quite a huge amount. It's unprecedented, in the history of the Bank of Thailand that we suddenly have these reserves, which have been accumulated both from the surpluses that we get and also from the capital inflow. So you think that we should step by step manage these reserves in such a way that help the country to develop?
I think it will be beneficial to the country, if it can be made to earn more and at the same time also help finance, the development need of the countries. But in order to do that, one has to think what kind of structure, will be suitable. Obviously, if the government has to set up an agency like Temasek, that is run by the government will have to issue bonds in order to borrow money from the people and use that Thai baht to buy the reserves, dollar reserves from the central bank. But it will count as government debt. So I'm not sure whether the government will be able to do that or not. But another way, I think, is perhaps to look at doing it within the balance sheet of the Bank of Thailand itself. Allocating a certain part out through the separation of accounts. But here, one would have to pass the law to allow this to happen, and also make sure that there is a big and capable team of officials, to back up this kind of management, and also the governance at the top will have to be a committee headed by very experienced people.
We're going to have the ASEAN Economic Community in 2015. Do you think that the Thai companies, the mutual fund companies, or the average Thai investors are alert enough about the coming, of the integration that will have a significant impact, on their lives, on their business? Do you encourage, or should we encourage Thai companies, to go big into the region?
This is the very thing that we need to do. We need to keep talking. Unfortunately, we cannot force them, but we need to keep talking to tell them that there are opportunities outside.
Do you need to give them carrots?
Unfortunately, there isn't much carrot that we can give. Well, what I'm saying to the Securities Companies Association is that if there is any regulation that is hindering, that is preventing you, from going out and conquering the world, then tell us. We are prepared to make amendments. But it requires courage, it requires know-how, and it requires foresight, for these people to be able to go out and do business abroad. Obviously, it's not for everybody, but I will really urge those that are capable, to consider this, because, this is the best time to do it. You have the first mover advantage.
Do you think that Thai companies, have the advantage over others, in terms of expanding their business in this region, since Thailand is situated right in the center, of the ASEAN?
Well, no company will have privilege over any other unless it has the brain, unless it has the value add to offer to the investors. So it'll be up to the Thai entrepreneurs, to come up with big ideas, to come up with, value add services, things like Facebook, the creation of Google, or even perhaps going back into our basic and going to the Thainess and try to market that. It'll be up to the entrepreneurs to find their niches.
So what's your vision, for this regional capital markets by the year 2015? What would you like to see? Put it in summary.
Well, if things go according to schedule, and as I say, I will be reporting, I and or the next chairman of the ACMF will be reporting to the finance ministers regularly to try to push people into doing things according to plan. But if things go according to plan, obviously by the year 2015, we are going to see a lot more investments going across borders. Investors will be more comfortable picking up bonds, in local currencies, in other countries in ASEAN. But at the same time, I think the businesses will also be looking for opportunities, to go and sell goods and services abroad more.
And you are confident that we are moving on the right track?
We are opening up the doors, showing them the right way, but whether they move or not is up to them, and this is why we just have to keep pushing.
Thank you very much, Kun Thirachai, for spending time with us. That's it for Inside Asia. Thank you very much. Good night.
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ